This is Wall Street.
I lost everything in the crash. My house was taken by the bank. I lost my job. I had to figure out a way to survive.
The data led us to believe the subprime housing market was solid. This data was incorrect.
I fooled Wall Street. I made over $1 billion because I knew the housing market wasn't stable. My philosophy? The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward.
Was the 2006 housing bubble not a big enough risk indicator that a bigger financial crisis was on the horizon? Did the big banks and government really believe the data that was being presented? Or did they underestimate the risks of investment, artificial credit ratings, and the impact of dropping interest rates? Let's explore how different styles of thinking could have led to a drastically different outcome from the financial crisis. In 2004, the global economy was surging, and mortgages were seen as a low-risk, secure loan. Interest rates had never been lower, and over 75% of all homes in the UK and US alone were being mortgaged. After James took out his mortgage in 2004, the last thing he expected was the housing bubble to pop and a global recession to hit, which would cause him to foreclose 4 years later.
Before deciding to take out a mortgage, I did extensive research. The information provided to me by the big banks and the government data led me to believe that having a mortgage was a safe option. I approached this decision very logically. I saw it as a future investment that I could one day hand over to my kids. The mortgage banker sold me on the strongest mortgage, which was backed by the most secure bank. I thought I was trusting a credible source of information.
We were backing AAA-rated subprime mortgages because the market and Federal Reserve led us to believe, with the deregulation, that low-risk securities were the best way to protect our customers. We were fooled as we trusted the data and underestimated the risk of packaging different rated mortgages together in something we called a CDO.
Many people experienced a manipulation of data when they were sold very high-risk interests and investments during the housing bubble, which resulted in a global financial crisis. What could James and Michael have done differently? What did their decisions say about what kind of thinkers they are? In this course, you will learn the differences between risk and uncertainty and the nature of data. You will apply this knowledge to assess the quality and credibility of data, and you will explore these theories to get an overall grasp on data management. You will also look at risk management and how Kahneman's System 1 and 2 thinking can start to affect your decision-making.
How can I trust the credibility of any data if I can't even trust official government information? I always seen myself as a logical and conscious thinker, but uncertainty can always sting you. I am now trying to rebuild my life.
I think many brokers and government officials knew exactly what was going on. People were making so much money and the risks were so low that they chose to turn the other cheek.
In this video, I will talk about the quality of data and how we can assess whether or not data is from a credible source. One of the key characteristics of the current world in which we live so much of our lives online is that essentially every time we interact online, be that to buy something, to engage with social media, or to surf the internet, we are generating data. And that data is being collected, sometimes without us realizing that it's being collected. And that means that all sorts of organizations know an awful lot about us. And on the one hand, that is a good thing, because it means that, for example, when I surf my favorite online shopping portal, it tells me exactly what it thinks that I'm going to want to buy, and frequently it's right. When I listen to my favorite music streaming service, it tells me what kind of music I'm likely to want to listen to, and frequently it's right. The problem comes when there is so much data and we don't know where it is, who's using it, or how they're using it. And then related to that, the advent and spread of digital technologies means that it's now possible to automate an awful lot of information and information sharing in a way that is very, very credible. So that has led to the spread of what is popularly known as fake news. And fake news has become a very commonly used accusation in political campaigns and also in the media more generally. Related to the spread of fake news is the fact that those who are spreading fake news are able to use the data that they're able to collect about us in order to target very specifically the sort of information that we're seeing. So I think there are a number of possible solutions to this. The main one is that I think people need to be even more critical than ever about assessing the information that they're seeing and making a judgment about its credibility. So that means that people need to think very, very carefully about where information that they see is coming from, whether the source is reliable, whether the same information is available elsewhere, so how verifiable it is, and also what the agenda or agendas might be of those who are sharing this information. I hope that during this module you're going to get a sense of how data can be used to take effective decisions, and also that you will be exposed to some tools that can help you to assess the credibility of the data that you're exposed to. I also hope that as a result of watching this video, you will be particularly vigilant from now on about the fact that so much data is being collected about you and is being used in all sorts of ways. So in this video, we have looked at data, how data is collected, and some of the issues of making sure that the data that we use is reliable. I hope you've enjoyed this video. In this video, I'm going to introduce the ideas of Daniel Kahneman. Kahneman was a psychologist and economist who won a Nobel Prize in economics for his ideas about how flaws in people's thinking can affect their ability to take rational decisions. Kahneman's main contribution to knowledge was the idea of System 1 and System 2 thinking. Essentially, System 1 thinking is intuitive, is quick, and is instinctive, whereas System 2 thinking involves a much more considered weighing up of options and so it is a much slower and more reflective process. So an example of system 2 thinking might be, for example, doing a cost-benefit analysis, where if, for example, a small business is considering whether to open a new outlet. Now, system 1 thinking can be very important, for example, to keep us out of danger, because instinctively our brains tell us to get out of the way of danger. But what Kahneman argues is that system 1 dominates our thinking even when we believe that we're using system 2, and that as a result we often think that we're taking rational decisions where we're weighing up the options when actually we aren't. The other thing that Kahneman did in his work was to identify a whole series of cognitive flaws, which he calls heuristics, which can affect the quality of our thinking and the quality of our decision making. And one of the things that we're going to do during this course is to explore some of those heuristics in greater depth. So, for example, one heuristic is the availability heuristic. And what the availability heuristic says is that we are likely to think that something that readily comes to mind is of a higher quality than perhaps it actually is. And this is the reason why companies pay so much to advertise their products. Because essentially, if we see, for example, the Coca-Cola logo everywhere, then when we're thirsty and would like to buy a cold drink, our instinct is to buy a Coca-Cola, even though other soft drinks may perform better in blind taste tests. We go for Coca-Cola because that is the one that most readily comes into our mind. And there are a whole series of other cognitive flaws or heuristics which can affect our ability to take rational decisions. So that's a very brief introduction and overview of the key ideas of Daniel Kahneman. And essentially, he is one of the main intellectual influences behind this whole module, and we'll explore these ideas in greater depth throughout the module. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for your hard work as we come to the end of short course 1. During this short course, I hope that we've introduced you to some of the key ideas around decision making. And in particular, I hope that we've given you a taste of the big ideas of Daniel Kahneman, who is one of the main thinkers in this area. In terms of Kahneman's work, the most important thing to take away is the distinction between System 1 thinking, which is quick and intuitive, and System 2 thinking, which is more considered and involves careful weighing up of options to come to a rational decision. The thing to remember is that we use System 1 far more than we think, even when we believe that we're carrying out System 2 thinking. So we need to realize that a lot of our thinking is actually very instinctive and intuitive. And for that reason, one of the other themes of this short course has been data. And it's clearly very important that when you take decisions, those are backed up by information, and that you learn to carry out the research that you need to make effective decisions, and in particular to take a critical approach to determining whether the information that you're using is reliable or not. And we talked about the phenomenon of fake news and the fact that there's so much data out there, but quite a lot of that data isn't very reliable. So those are some of the key themes that we've explored in this short course, and I look forward to going on the journey with you as we move forward.